What's going on, everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Craftsman lawnmower, and its problem is that it's leaking gas from the primer bulb. Now the mower will start and run, but eventually it'll die. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this lawnmower, but this fix may not be the one you need for yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. Now, the reason this carburetor is leaking gas from the primer bulb is because there's a lot of engine vibration. And unfortunately, the vibration is from a bent crankshaft, probably caused by hitting something hard while mowing with it. Let's put some gas into the tank, start it up, and see the problem for ourselves. We'll also see just how much this thing is actually vibrating. Eventually, enough gas leaks into the carburetor so the engine stops altogether. Now, the usual fix for this is to replace the entire engine because there isn't an easy way to fix a bent crankshaft. But what if you need to fix it just enough to finish the lawn until you can get another engine or maybe a whole new mower? After removing the air filter base, we can see just how severe the leak was. In fact, the primer bulb is still full of gas. Before taking the carburetor off, let's remove the fuel line at the tank and drain all the gas from it. After it's done draining, pull the carburetor off the intake tube and rotate it off the governor linkage. Now the O-ring and its retainer are still on the intake tube, so remember to reinstall it later on. Next, remove the two screws holding the bowl to the carburetor. We're going to need to get to the float inside the carburetor to adjust it. This is the normal position for the float, but the extra vibration from the engine isn't allowing it to regulate the fuel flow correctly. After removing the pin and the float, we can now slide out the needle from its groove. Now normally we'd be able to bend a metal tab to adjust it, but we're going to have to shim it instead since the whole thing is plastic. We only need a few thousandths of an inch to shim the needle, so I'm going to use part of a soda can to do that. We just need to cut it wide enough to slide into the groove and then bend it over. Like I said, this is a desperate fix for your own personal mower. Never attempt this on a mower that isn't yours. Now that the shim is in place, we need to keep it from coming loose. To do that, we'll just bend the corners up a little bit. And once the shim is in place, let's replace the needle on the float. Now there used to be quite a bit of play before this, now it's pretty much gone. And after replacing the float, we can see that the angle of the float has changed just a little bit. Now this is hopefully going to give us a little bit more control over the fuel flow, even with all the extra vibration. Now it's time to reassemble the carburetor and get it back on the engine. Don't forget to remove the O-ring and the white retainer and install it back on the back side of the carburetor. Now if you forget to do this part, then the mower may not start at all. Now there is a bad side effect from shimming the needle to close just a little bit sooner than normal. If we shimmed it too much, then we may not allow enough gas to flow into the carburetor bowl, and it makes the engine surge and eventually stall out. Another reason why your carburetor could be leaking gas is a cracked float or a bad needle and seat. Now, if your mower isn't vibrating like this one, then I would suggest replacing the carburetor instead. And finally, when it's all back together, let's try starting it again and see if we fixed the problem. Well, it seems to have worked for the most part, and we should be able to finish mowing the yard until we can at least figure out what to do next. So my question is, would you ever attempt a hack repair job like this on your own mower, or would you just say no? Would you ever be this desperate to get a job done? I know what I would do, but I'm more interested in your answer. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.